So this session is how to fulfill your potential in life by making it happen in the world. And we're on the fourth session in the series. And so the first one was just an general introduction to the topic. And it was about really there are two approaches to life that are equally important. The first is, the path of becoming, the path of mastery, the path of fulfilling your potential in life, the journey of life, and all the things you learn, putting into practice everything you learn, putting into practice everything you know, developing yourself, growing yourself, becoming the best that you can be, so that in your healthy old age, you can look back on your life and you can say, this was a great life. I had lots of trouble, I had lots of good things, I learnt from it all, and this is where I've got to. So that's the first approach to fulfilling your potential in life. The second approach to fulfilling your potential in life isn't a journey at all. It's more like a piece of music. Yeah, Elizabeth, she can't hear us, so what can we do? Nothing. So the second approach is the approach of being, which is like a piece of music, not a path. And so when you listen to a piece of music, you're not trying to get to the end of the track, are you? That's not the purpose of it. It's not, there's no destination. The art of listening to music is to fully listen into the piece, into the chord, into the moment, into what's happening in that moment. And so this is about life as being. That in being, when you're looking in a child's eyes, or you're walking by the sea, or you're in nature, or you're having a really intimate moment with a friend, the future isn't important, the past isn't important. The only thing that is important is the present moment. And that's a portal actually to a whole another world. It's actually the high point of Buddha's Four Noble Truths. The first noble truth is that that life has suffering. The second noble truth is that that suffering has a cause, which is grasping to past and future. The third noble truth is that there is that happiness is possible, and the fourth noble truth is that there's a path that takes you from suffering to happiness. And so the portal to that is the present moment, being. Because if you're really present, you're no longer thinking about the past. So the past isn't affecting you. And if you're really present, the future isn't affecting you. All you have is this one moment with whatever experience is happening in this moment. And then that has a luminosity to it, a vibrancy to it, which is beyond the cause and effect that gives us suffering in life. I mean, that's a sort of summary of the whole Buddhist path in a sentence. But even in mystical Christianity, or Judaism or Islam, you have this non-dual place, which is beyond, where I'm no longer separate from the one. I am the one, and that's a portal that can be entered through being, and it's really important. Just mindfulness practice, just walking on the beach, just relaxing, just playing your favorite music, doing the things that you love. We all know about being. We all know that there are things that we do that take us into a really quiet, still place, and that's a portal to some of the great secrets of life. So that was the first session. The second session was about on the path of mastery, on the path of fulfilling one's potential in life. We have a life calling, we have a gift to give to the world. We have a difference that we can make in the world. So of the three marriages, the marriage of love, the marriage of work, and the marriage with yourself, particularly the marriage of work, is about discovering what your gift is to the world and giving your gift to the world. And actually that life calling can be given in your work, or in retirement after your work, it can be given in your personal life, and it's what you most want for yourself. It's your gift that you most want for yourself, and it's also your gift for the world. And we talked about, during that session, we talked about the fact that the combination of your life calling and your strengths and your life experience makes you completely unique within the world. And and so therefore you have a unique gift. You're the only one doing what you do. So therefore you're the master of your discipline. And now all you have to do is to work out how to express that clearly into the world and fulfill it to the best of your ability. So that was the second session. The third session was about what stops you from fulfilling your potential in life, what stops you from giving your gift to the world. And so we all have had disempowering and wounding experiences in our life, and modern child rearing practices are not really good for empowering and supporting and developing children. We spend too much time on intellectual education and not enough time on intellectual support, on emotional support, on validating, on empowering, or on seeing the soul of a child, of supporting them. And our parents and ourselves as parents can get too stressed by life and really can't be as attentive as we'd like to be in the process of helping somebody become an adult. And therefore we all have wounds, and also there are, bad experiences that happen in life, bad things happen in life. And those can be disempowering unless we've been really supported in the healing process. And so the second part is, so knowing my potential in life, knowing my life calling puts the foot, if you like, on the accelerator of fulfilling my potential. And my wounds, my disempowerments, my lack of self-confidence, my lack of self-belief, whatever it is that bothers you, that undermines you, is your foot on the brake. And if you have your foot on the accelerator and your foot on the brake at the same time, the engine doesn't smell good and the car doesn't work very well. So we have to take our foot off the brake as well. And so we do that. The sort of simple answer to how we do that is that we have a body-mind connected state, and we have we access that sort of state of body-mind connection. We access our psychological resources so that we have the support from all the people who ever loved us, believed in us, and supported us. And also all the experiences in life that worked really well when we were in the flow. All of those are available as psychological resources. And of course, we also can have the support of nature and the support of spirit as well, Mother Earth. And also, if we have a connection to a sense of life bigger than ourselves through some sort of spirituality, we can call all of that in. And we can call in ancestors. There are all sorts of things that we can call in as our psychological resources to support us being patient, being loving, being kind, being sweet, and being a perfect parent to the wounded place in ourselves. So that's the basic healing process, is that we reparent ourselves by being really sweet, kind, and coaching and talking to the child in ourselves that that really needs support and that really needs coaching. And by the way, folks, I always prefer it on these Zooms if you turn your cameras on, because that's what we're going to do, because we do exercises and we talk to each other. So that's the invitation to Evelina and Aris to turn your cameras on if you possibly can. So that was the third session in the series. The fourth session in the series is this one today, which is, how do I make all of this happen? How do I walk the path of fulfilling my potential in life? How do I go about giving my gift to the world? How do I heal my inner wounds and so that I can really be free in expressing my potential in life? And so that's the topic of the session today, which is the practical part. So it's not enough just to go to workshops online on a Wednesday, even though I think it's wonderful coming to my workshops on a Wednesday. We actually have to take it out into our lives, out into the world. We have to do something with what we're learning. We have to do something with what we're getting. And so what I'm going to do with you is just share a couple of slides with you about this. I was thinking about, and just, Bethan, I can't see everybody on the screen. Can you just nod your head if you can see the slide? Fantastic, great. So I was thinking of all the myriad of techniques and processes and methods that are available to help us make it happen in the world. Which ones am I going to talk about today? And so I picked two, which I think are two of the most important ones. And so the first one will be familiar to some of you. It's about really accessing your generative resources on a daily basis, accessing your psychological resources on a daily basis. So you have a vision of something that you want to make happen in the world. And you have that vision, and in a coaching session or in a peer session, you develop that vision. You get a body-mind connected state because you want the right brain and the left brain. You want the conscious and the unconscious. You want the body and consciousness. We've talked about this before. The left intellectual brain only makes maps of reality. It doesn't experience reality. It's the right brain that experiences reality and then sends the information across to the left brain to make maps of it. So we need the body-mind connected state, the state of meditation, generative state, as a starting point for any deep work that we want to do. Then we have a vision for what do I most want from life, or what does life most want from me? A vision for what it is that we want. And then, having had that vision, we start to access psychological resources. Who can support me on this? Is it the teacher from school, or my friend, or my partner, or someone who looked me once in the eye and said, "Yes, I can support you. Yes, you're worth being seen. Yes, you're worth attention." Who are the people in my life who can say that yes to me? But it also could be people that you've never met. I call on Nelson Mandela when I want patience, because he spent 27 years in prison, so he had a lot of patience. Or I can call on Gandhi because he was so able to take that nonviolent approach. So you can call on anyone from world culture as an inner resource. You can call on spiritual figures. And so then you access enough resources. And by the way, folks, this is the creative mind process. This is the generative coaching process. I've taught this model quite a few times before, and I'll be teaching it again. Sometimes I will spend, a session on each of these steps, but we're just going through something today, just looking at it briefly today, because the main point that I'm making is that we need to have a daily practice. So if you want to make it happen in the world, have a vision, bring your resources to it, have enough resources to overcome obstacles, to empower you enough, imagine yourself making it happen, and remember to repeat it every day. So really, in terms of making it happen in the world, having a little time when you remember your vision, access your resources, imagine making it happen, that's, I would say, a key step to making it happen in the world. And if you just do one coaching session, or you do one change technique, or you do one visioning technique, that is not enough to make it happen. To repeat it daily, to come back to that vision daily. By the way, if you want to ask questions, just butt in. Any questions on that before I go to the second slide? Feel free, and just because I can't see you all, you just need to unmute and speak if you've got a question. If not, we'll come back to questions.
I've got a question.
Great.
Have you got, I look at that and I just immediately think, well, I'm going to get really bored.
Why?
I don't know. I just feel like trying to repeat the same thing every day.
Well, you don't repeat the same thing every day. You elaborate it in 100,000 different ways.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so the unconscious has infinite possibility. So you can just, you keep enriching it and finding a different approach to it. And of course,
Okay,
over time, Yeah,
Yeah.
go on.
So you just take you take the sort of what's the word, the impulse, and you recreate it each day
Yeah,
from that same intention in a sense, and then recreate, keep recreating.
that's right. And you'll find that actually after a while, the thing that seemed a bit difficult doesn't seem difficult anymore. And there's something else that, another part of it. So of course your movie will change every day. Your vision, your intention will change. But
Okay.
it's not that you don't want to be rigid about it, but you say, well, then today I imagine my vision
Yeah.
and then I think, oh, I need resources to help me with the parts of my vision that I haven't
Mm.
quite achieved yet. I'm very, very behind time on writing my book. Who do I know who's really good at keeping to time? Let me see them, hear them, feel their blessing, and then apply that feeling from that person to this situation. So the resources may change, but
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
and until you've achieved the vision, it's always worth coming back to it.
Yeah. So it's constantly creative and recreating
Constantly
itself
creative. That's right.
as well. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thanks.
Great. Good question, Caroline. Thank you.
Julian, sorry, can I ask something as well?
Sure.
It's Bethan. Just when you say a generative state, because it just occurred to me, I'm thinking of it like I haven't trained in generative coaching or anything like that. Could you say that that's just a state of sort of presence and being?
Yes,
Okay.
I could say that.
Okay. Thanks.
I have said that. Yeah, any meditation practice that you have, any mindfulness practice, or it could, I mean, the sort of prototypical way of getting a generative state, the sort of basic method is to say, remember a time when you were really connected with yourself and the world. See that, hear that, feel that. Some people, it'll be in the woods, and some people will have a meditation cushion, and someone else will pray, someone else will dance and move. And we all have multiple methods as well. You know, if I go into a very deep state if I lie on a beach for 10 days and just listen to the sound of the waves and eat good food. I can't do that every day, unfortunately.
No.
Well, at least I haven't organized my life to do that every day. So I have to have other methods as well as that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's what a generative state is, a state where you're really deeply connected with yourself and with life.
Okay.
And
Thank
the Buddhists will say there are 84,000 different methods, but I think nobody's actually counted. So maybe plus or minus a few. Great. So that's the first method. We're going to do a meditation on all of this a little bit later. That I thought was important. The second method is quite funny. I've got quite a sophisticated model here, which comes from the Studying Entrepreneurs and from a book called Just Start, Take Action, Embrace Uncertainty, Create the Future, from Harvard Business Review Press. But it basically says that's what entrepreneurs do. They don't sit around forever working out what it is they're going to do. They first they have a desire or an intention, and then they take a smart step quickly. And so they act with the means in hand, with what you know, who you know, and anything else that's available to you now. You don't have to, wait for ages to get something. And you stay within your acceptable losses. In the testing phase, you don't mortgage your house until you're certain that it's all going to work. So find a really cheap way that, in terms of time, money, reputation, and so on, never, just so that you don't lose too much with your test. And then, if you need to, bring other people in, get them involved, spread the risk. If you need several people, involve other people, do what you can so that you can test it quickly. And that may mean that you have to go into partnership with other people, but that can be okay too. If you're not having to cough up lots of money, that's great. So then you test it. And the obvious example is you think you want to run workshops. Well, run a workshop in a month's time on a Saturday. See what happens. Or you want to work in a hospital, go and be a volunteer in a hospital. You want to do this, go and find a way of doing it that's quick and easy and cheap. And then once you've done it, then that in this model they've said build on it. What that really means is it's the review stage, it's the feedback stage. You look at what you did, You say, what worked well? Let's do more of that. What didn't work well? How do I improve that? Do I need any additional resources? What else do I need to do? And then you roll it out again. You try it a second time. And you keep on testing it, trying it out until you've got something that, suddenly you find your little workshop on a Saturday has got 60 people coming to it. Or whatever it is, that it's suddenly you get an offer. You're doing a volunteer thing and suddenly you get a job offer. So that's the thing. The thing is try out quickly rather than waiting around. And then act again and build on what you learned. So if we apply this to both of these two, because there's a very specific topic that we're talking about today, which is if we apply this to fulfilling our potential in life. And by the way, folks, I'm just inviting Marina and Sua and Evelina to turn your cameras on, because that's what we like to do in these workshops, because we create an intimate setting. If we're applying this to how do we fulfill our potential in life, then we can apply this to all the elements that we've discussed so far. So, we can apply this to, am I really walking the path of mastery for myself? Am I really putting myself out clearly into the world? Do I know my life calling? Am I putting it out clearly into the world? Am I really pursuing am I pursuing what I'm passionate about, or am I doing something else? And what stops me from doing what I'm really passionate about? So you can take smart steps on that. So every day, vision what it is that you're really passionate about. Imagine the resources that you need to help you get there, the inner resources and the support that you need to get there. Hi, Ansua. Nice to have your camera on. And so, every day you're imagining it, you're accessing internal resources. You're transforming any obstacles by having enough resources to support you through that. But you might also say, actually, this inner obstacle I have is, I don't seem to be able to overcome it just using my inner resources on my own. Maybe I need to see a coach. Maybe I need to see a therapist. Maybe I need to go on a workshop. So rather than waiting forever, you can call up a coach and have a session or two. All it costs you is the cost of those sessions. Or you can go and do a weekend with someone. Or you can say, I think that such and such a sort of personal development would be great. Can I find a video? Can I do a free class with this person? It's like, so taking action around your own development, rather than sitting back with crossed arms saying, I'm not fulfilling my potential in life, but it just seems too big. So start where you are. Start with the vision. Start with where you are. So I think, those two, applying this to those two principles. The first is vision it every day. And the second is take smart steps. Try different sorts of support. Try different sorts of therapy. Go and talk to different, you go to a workshop leader, they're quite nice, you quite like them, but it doesn't completely ring your bell. Well, go to another one. Go and try lots of different things. Wait till you fall in love with a process or a tradition. So it's sort of really the encouragement is to go and take action. What do I need to do? And in fact, before the end of the session, I'll find a poem from David White, which is all about don't take the second step or the third, take the first step, the step you don't want to take. So, is there something blocking you that you don't want to look at it? It's too painful or too difficult to look at. I'm sure I can get around this somehow. So one of the things to say about psychological problems, emotional problems, is that if I am walking down the street and somebody's rude to me or something happens, usually I can just be annoyed for a few minutes and then I can forget it and I can move on. But if it follows me after a week, then I need to look a little bit deeper. If it's followed me after a month or a year or 10 years, I definitely need to. So if there's something that's been bothering you, that's been undermining you, for a good section of your life, don't think it's going to go, well, it might go away, as you get older. By the time it may not be a problem anymore when you're in the hospital bed about to die, but don't wait until forever. If it's followed you for a while, go and tackle it. There's a beautiful story in the Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin, and I won't go into the whole story, but the wizard has the apprentice wizard has used a spell to open a gap to the underworld, and a spirit escapes. And the next 400 pages are about how the spirit is pursuing him across the world. And finally, he turns into an eagle and ends up with his first teacher, who lives on a mountain in a hermit's hut. And he says, what can I do? I've been pursued by this. I can't escape from it. I can't escape from it. And the master, his first master, says, you have to turn around and pursue that shadow. And so then the next 400 pages are him pursuing the shadow. And then finally he's in a little dinghy on an ocean, a very big ocean, on a tiny little boat, pursuing this shadow across the ocean. And then finally he comes across the shadow, and he leaps from the boat to grab the shadow by the throat. And as he grabs the shadow by the throat, he sees it's his own face. So, so it's sort of, if there's a shadow that has pursued you, do something to heal it. I think, well, I was going to say in the West, but there's a lot of resistance in the modern world. I would say in the East as well, actually, to doing psychological healing. And we still have a view that must be that's only for crazy people. That's only for people who are, neurotic. Actually, I've never met a person who hasn't got psychological wounds. The only question is, how much is this psychological wound stopping them from fulfilling their potential or doing what they need to do? Everybody has it. So there's no shame. Actually, there's pride, and there's magnificence, and there's wisdom in getting the support that you need. One of the things that I'll sort of tell you a secret, people who heal their psychological wounds become deeper and wiser than the rest of the population, the people who haven't looked at themselves. The true, the wizards, the true masters, the true healers are the people who've really had to look at the painful, wounded, perhaps shameful corners of themselves. And that in the process of healing, the first step is healing, but actually the second step beyond healing, and it may take a long time, the earlier the wound, folks, just so you know this, because there are some schools that say, hey, you can do the 5-minute phobia cure, but the earlier the wound in your life, the more difficult and the longer it may take to heal, and you may always have a scar around it. But once you've healed it sufficiently, the wound itself becomes a part of your gift to the world, because you've learnt things, you've experienced things through the process of healing that you wouldn't have experienced if you hadn't. So that's sort of, basically the message is, get the support you need to fulfill your potential in life. Search around. And I would say that there are these two major categories of support. Let me say this. The first is psychological, which is you want to have, a relatively healthy ego. You want to be able to say yes. You want to be able to say no. You want to be able to be empowered and speak from your heart about your gift to the world. Feel good about yourself, but you don't want to be so arrogant or, there's hubris. The word hubris means, you think you're a god. There's an exaggerated, sometimes people with lower self-esteem sell themselves too much. I'm sure you've seen that. So it's like having humility, but also really knowing who you are, what you stand for, what your gift is, and being able to talk about it in a quiet but powerful way. And so the first is that process of psychological healing, which is to have a healthy ego. But there's another statement, a statement that I love actually, which is, and I may have, if any people for whom English isn't the first language, I may have to translate a bit of it because it's quite old-fashioned language. It goes like this: to find yourself is half the way to God. To lose yourself and all the way is trod. Trod means trodden or walked. So that this is part of the paradox of life, which is that we need to have a healthy ego, with good boundaries and a clear sense of self, and good communication skills and good relationship skills from our sense of self. But actually, there's another dimension, which is, if you like, the spiritual, which is, even at the most, if we take the most practical level, I'm not separate from the biosphere, Mother Earth. Every breath I take reminds me, or could remind me, that I'm entirely dependent on the biosphere for breath, for water, for food, for all sorts of other things. I'm not separate. I'm a part of this biosphere. So if we just take spirituality at the simplest level, we would just say that there is something, there's something bigger than me, and I'm connected with it. We can do that with community. We can do that with the biosphere. We can do that with world culture to reach out and to feel life that is bigger than just myself. To feel my place in the universe. If you ever are in somewhere where there isn't too much light pollution, you can look at the night sky and you can see all the stars. To feel how small you are in that. Or I talk about the Big Bang, the start of the universe, to feel the mystery of ourselves in existence, and that we're a part of this great mystery of existence. And that somehow out of space, you could say, out of space, forms have arisen. Out of emptiness, out of nothingness, out of non-existence, forms have arisen in so many multitude of forms. It's absolutely incredible. And just to look at a duck or a bird or a tree or a baby or another human being and see the mystery is very, very empowering. So in terms of fulfilling our potential in life, there's the psychological and also the spiritual, which is going beyond ourselves. And there are, you can say, archetypal, universal qualities like love that different traditions imagine in different forms. Avalokiteshvara in Buddhism, Christ in Christianity, other forms in other different traditions. So you've got archetypal forms. And sometimes it's really helpful to imagine, a higher power in some form. And all the different traditions have different ways of imagining it. It doesn't really matter which you do. And so that is also a part of the sort of the healing process and the empowering process, which is to have access to both of those sets of resources. Some of my most powerful resources are spiritual archetypes, who I've developed a relationship with by talking to them every day over a longish period of time. And then, of course, the simplest, most powerful resource, but the deepest, is the resource of being. That when we attend to being, there is something there that supports us all the time, in both the good times and the bad times. But we don't have much training in that. And mindfulness is a portal. Meditation is a portal to that. So that's sort of. So then you say, okay, so I want to fulfill my potential in life. What do I have to do to fulfill my potential, to unblock myself psychologically, so I can really express my gift to the world? Where do I go? Who do I have to talk to? What communities should I be a part of? And also, how can I connect to the life that is bigger than me? If it's the ocean of existence of which I'm a little wave that is that is rises, that is born, that rises for a while and then dies, goes back into the ocean. But if I just think, oh, the little wave that's me is going to disappear, that's quite scary and frightening. What a short little existence I have. But if I say, actually, I'm going back into the ocean of which I am one, then, and I identify with that one, then I have a really different experience of life. I'll be going home when I die, back into the ocean of existence. So, we need this psychological support. We need this inner support. We need this mental support to help us to help us really fulfill our potential in these two dimensions. One is fully expressing into the world what is the gift that we have to offer, and also fully identifying with existence, the nature of existence itself. You could say awareness itself. Where, existence. How do you know that anything exists? How do you know that there's a world out there? Through awareness, through the senses. Awareness itself is what lets you know that there is something out there. And so, this Buddhist master said, awareness itself is the Buddha. So that's why meditation, mindfulness explores awareness itself, because awareness itself is the only thing that really exists for us, because everything else comes through awareness. This screen that I'm looking at, with you folk on it, I wouldn't know about this. It wouldn't exist for me if I didn't have awareness. You can only see me through awareness. So, I don't want to... So the way I think about it is that there's psychological, making the most of myself psychologically, and then there are two forms of spiritual resource. One is archetypal forms, images of love, of empowerment, of higher power, images of higher power and archetypes. And then the third, which is the deepest in a sense, but you need all three, is actually what creates my image of archetypal forms? Where does it come from? It comes from awareness itself. It arises out of perhaps out of cultural, world culture, and then it arises out of awareness itself. So those are the three. So then you say, well, where do I need to work on myself? There's the famous story about the riverboat steamer that breaks down, with those wheels that go round in the river on the Mississippi, for example, and it breaks down, and not many people know how to work men's steam-powered riverboat steamers. But they call in the expert, and he goes and he looks around the engine room with all the pipes and where the coal is and where they make the steam, and he looks at the pipes, and then he takes a hammer out and he taps on the pipe, taps hard on the pipe, and there's a gurgle, and the steamer is fixed. So then he puts in his invoice for $1,000, and the steamship owner says, "You did a great job, you fixed it, but all you did was tap with your hammer. Why are you invoicing me? Could you itemize your invoice?" And then the expert sends back the itemized invoice. $1 for tapping, $999 for knowing where to tap. And so working out where you need to tap, where is going to get you the biggest advantage in your own development journey is really important. And usually it's not working harder, or doing stuff on the outside harder. If you get it right on the inside, then things are going to come to you. If you're in the right emotional state, generative state, when you're networking or going to a job interview, you'll suddenly get a job that you didn't even know existed. All the work I did in China came because I went to a wedding and I was friendly with the sponsor of a big personal development organization. it wasn't even planned. I was just I was in the right state. By the way, the research says that if you're in the right state, you're more successful, communicate better, have better health outcomes, live longer. I mean, there's lots of research around that. So where do you need to tap? Is it you need to do stuff for yourself psychologically, to empower yourself psychologically? Or do you need to find your life calling, get clearer about that? Or are there some wounds that hold you back that need to be looked at directly? Or do you need to pull in some spiritual practice because a sense of being supported by life itself? And if so, what sort? Which area of that do you need? Is it that you need a sense of connection with oneness, or do you need an archetypal figure? I recommend, if you haven't got an archetypal figure that follows you around everywhere, I have 2 figures from Tibetan Buddhism that are with me all the time, 24 hours a day. Have you got that? So it's working out what it is that you need. So, any questions? Any questions before we do a meditation on this subject? Great, Marina, go ahead.
Yeah, you were saying you've got the 2, did you say them Buddhas with you 24 hours a day?
Yes.
Is that you having chats in your mind with them then, and they answer?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different approaches to this. The approach, the Tibetan Buddhist approach, is that you do a practice with a mantra where you visualize them, and you can, there are different versions, but you receive light from them into different chakras and things like that. And then you get familiar with them. And then over time you start to dream about them and talk to them and, and build a relationship with them over time. And you just need to be creative about it. You can, it's like chat to the Buddha and see what the Buddha says. I don't have a particular strong relationship with Jesus. I'm not a Christian, but he's sort of friendly with me. I won't go into why, but I'm sort of got a friendly relationship with him. And there's something was going on which I didn't like, to do with Christianity a few weeks ago. And then I suddenly had a vision of Jesus sitting next to me. And then, he's like a mate. He digs me in the ribs with his elbow, just gently, like a one man to another sort of thing. And he whispers in my ear, "I'm not a Christian," So that was sort of like an and you could just say it came from my imagination, but it made me smile. It made me relax, So which archetypal forms do you connect with? Which archetypal forms could you connect with? And it could be Mother Earth. It could be, a spirit from an indigenous tradition. It could be a saint of any tradition. It could be, I always used to, I'd sort of say in China, Lao Tzu, is it Lao Tzu? Is it the Buddha? Is it Mao Zedong? Who is it? You can choose anyone that you want to choose. Did you have a hand up, Paul?
Well, I did. It's I was thinking that for me, the Christ archetype transcends Jesus as an imaginal figure, and of course, Jesus was never a Christian anyway.
Yeah.
But I have several, I think, or I would call them almost iconic reference points in my imagination, which nurture and nourish a sense of empowerment, but empowerment, almost you could say a gracious one, which is about love and courage and strength and endurance in the face of not just obstacles, but rejection and disappointment, because I think obstacles are often quite emotionally quite large in our experience. We get many knocks even when we feel strong and positive. You can be knocked down rather than knocked out. I just thought I'd offer that my own reflection on.
Thank you.
On where it is for me. Sometimes at my best.
Thank you, Paul. Helpful. Anything else? Any other questions or comments?
I got a question. Do we got a chance to see your this slide of your model?
I showed you 2 slides.
The second one, not the coach state, but the other one.
I did show it to you, but let's
Okay.
and perhaps you, I don't know. I'll show it to you again. Can you see that? Gianrico, can you see that? Can anyone see that?
Yeah, thank you.
Great,
Yes.
good. If you like, I can give you the link to it.
It would be great. Thank you.
Great, okay. Let me just find, I'll put the link in chat if you want it. I'm just going to spend a moment looking for it. Personal, hang on. In fact, I'll give you the slides for the whole series, then you can see them. We had difficulty finding it. Let me just hang on for a second, just give me a moment. So any questions before the meditation? Great. So one thing I do want to mention is I could have mentioned it earlier. At the end of this session at 6 o'clock, I'm going to run an introduction to tools for a personal transformation, the Life Talent Program. So some of you will want to leave at the end of the session, but for those of you who want to find out about tools for personal transformation, Life Talent Level 1, that will be from 6 to 6:45, and it's 8 weeks learning some of the tools that we've been talking about during the series, and it's a part of the longer Life Talent Program. So those of you, I'll talk about that for those who want to at 6 o'clock when the others have gone. But let's start with the meditation. And so get yourself into a generative state. And the easiest way to get yourself in a generative state is to see, hear, and feel an activity that you regularly engage in that connects you with yourself and with life. It could be a meditation practice or a mindfulness practice, or imagining yourself doing some other activity. But for those of you who are not very familiar, with doing this, I'm going to take you through this 4-3-2-1 process. So those of you who've got your own way of doing this that works better, pay attention to that. And for those of you who need some support in going into the meditation state, you can listen to what it is that I'm talking about with 4-3-2-1. So if your eyes are open, or if your eyes are closed, you can notice 4 things that you see. If your eyes are closed, that will probably include the darkness of your eyelids, perhaps specks of light, which is basically brain noise, and images in your mind's eye. And if your eyes are open, it's really helpful to focus on a single point in the room and then let yourself defocus, go into peripheral vision, so that although your foveal vision, your focused vision, is looking at a single point, you can see 3 other things in the room as well. And then we can listen to 4 different things. And I like to listen to the sounds outside the window, or the absence of sound. I can hear birds. The sounds in the room. The sounds in my body. And then just noticing if I have any internal dialogue, any inner voice. And just listening to that like I would listen to someone at a networking meeting or at a party. I can be curious, I can be interested. I don't necessarily have to believe in it, in everything it says. I'm much, much more than that inner voice. And then 4 things that you feel. Muscles, a muscle in your body, a place on your skin, perhaps temperature, perhaps clothing touching your skin. A feeling in the trunk of your body, an emotion in the trunk of your body. And one other feeling. Notice 3 things that you see. 3 things that you hear. 3 things that you feel. Three different things you feel. Two things that you see. Two things that you hear. Two things that you feel. One thing that you see. One thing that you hear. One thing that you feel. And then for everybody, I like to pay attention to my breathing, because there are so many little sensations in the process of breathing in and out. It keeps me attending to my body rather than getting lost in thought. I often feel like I'm breathing right down, low into my belly, although I know that the lungs don't reach that far. It feels like some other more subtle form of breath. And as you think about fulfilling your potential in life, or life fulfilling its potential in you, what's the key dimension or element that hasn't yet been fulfilled? What do you see? How do you name it? What do you feel? And some people find it really helpful to make some sort of gesture or movement that symbolizes that vision. To have it really in the body. It could be just an abstract vision of you being fully aligned in yourself, fully connected in your heart and your belly, being fully yourself. Or it could be some specific element of your life, giving your gift to the world, or the marriage of love, friendship, community. Or it could be a vision of you, the marriage with yourself, really being at peace with yourself and your own existence and your place in the universe. And it doesn't matter which of these visions you have, because there's always another day for another aspect of your vision. So it's great just to feel what you truly long for, what you truly long for. What makes your heart sing? What would make your heart sing? What would get you excited about your life? What does that look like? What does that sound like? What does that feel like? And what gesture do you make of moving towards it, if you want to? And as you imagine this in front of you, what support do you need from your inner world? What support do you need? Actually, you could say, I need the support of someone in the outer world, the Dalai Lama, or Thich Nhat Hanh, or Greta Thunberg. But the way that they come to you is in your inner world. So see them in your inner world. A friend, someone who believes in you. Mother Earth, a saint, an archetypal form. And some of you will find several figures coming, and others will find that one figure is enough. Just to feel the support of what it is that will help you fulfill your potential in life. There could be a role model, there could be an advisor, it could fill you with healing energy. And is this enough? Are these resources enough to help you deal with any obstacles that might come your way? Because if not, call for the cavalry, call for the super resources. One simple, powerful way is to say, I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing this for the world. I call on the support of higher power. Imagine if each person in the world was authentic, was true to themselves, were kind, were loving, were giving their gift to the world. Wouldn't that be great? But if not you, who? So the universe, life, wants you to fulfill your potential so that you can act as a role model for others. In this very difficult time in human history, we need every one of us to be a role model, to be someone who gives their gift to the world, someone who fulfills their potential in life. Whether it's potential through giving your gift, or through love, or through being at peace with yourself, or all of them. Life wants us to fulfill our potential because life wants humanity to continue to survive. So the resource can be higher power of some sort. You can say, if you want this, help me. If you want this, support me. It doesn't have to depend on you and your broken ego, your wounded self. It can be, you can channel something bigger than yourself. Picasso didn't do the paintings. Picasso channeled the paintings. Your gift to the world doesn't have to come from your ego. It comes from, you're a channel for something archetypal. When you express love, you're a channel for something archetypal. So find some resource that will help you with the difficulties that you'll encounter on the path. What is life asking from you? And how can life support you? And then imagine all of this growing during the course of the days and weeks that come, as you take action to support yourself by repeating this meditation or something similar during the course of the days and weeks that come, and also developing, taking action, resourcing yourself and taking action. And you can include in your imagining smart steps. What's some quick and easy way of moving forward, of taking another step forward? What's an easy way of trying it out, of testing, of taking a little step without too much risk, without too much cost? Taking a little step forward in your life. And just imagining this. And you don't have to have it all worked out today, because even 10 or 15 minutes tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, can help you develop this. And you don't have to do this every day, although I said that earlier. But maybe 5 or 6 days a week. To just come back, and some days you'll come back to this visioning for 1 minute. And sometimes days you'll have time to come back to this visioning for half an hour. And you'll develop the vision, and the resources will develop, and the ways and range of ways that you overcome the obstacles will develop as well. And also your thoughts about what's a quick step that you can take, an immediate step that doesn't cost too much or isn't too high a risk, a step that will take you one step further. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. You don't have to think beyond the first few steps, because you can change what you do as you go forward. But you must take a step, because a single step will give you feedback. A single step will ask you questions and give you answers. And I'd like you to just gradually reorientate yourself to the room, to the screen. And so I'm going to ask you to share your vision, share how you might resource yourself and what obstacles come up and how you might support yourself with those difficulties. But also to share the smart step, the short step, the easy step, the way of testing it with each other. We're going to take 25 minutes in groups of 3, so that's 8 minutes per round in group of 3, and that's 12 minutes per round in the pairs. So that's 25 minutes in total. I will do the timing for the groups of 3. Round 1 starts now. Everybody, welcome back. These autumn days are closing in. Great to see you all. I think, is everybody out of the breakout rooms? I think they are, so that's great. In the chat, if you want the slides from all the sessions, it's in the chat. So if you need that, there's quite a lot. I've got lots and lots of images in it, so it's quite a big file, but anyway. So let's hear from you. How was that exercise for you? There's always a long pause, so you don't need to fill the gap. You don't need to talk unless you need to, because what happens is sometimes, just occasionally, somebody starts speaking when they haven't got anything to say because they're embarrassed for me. But I don't mind long pauses. So if you have something to share from your group or a question to ask, you feel free to ask. We can sit in silence. Great, Elizabeth.
I just very briefly, I came in very late,
Yeah.
so I just want to say, when you said in the very end, even if you go just for a minute, then it was very amazing to me how quickly I came in when you sort of opened the space for resources, and I could just sink right in it. And it was actually, I was first like, oh, I'm not gonna come to the meeting. And I thought, I could just not show up. And then when I showed up, I was like, wow, even that short amount of time was very.
Yeah, you came in the middle of the meditation. Well, that's great. Good work on the part of your unconscious. That's great.
Yeah, and that amazed me. So it was actually a learning process that
Great.
even short time is worthwhile.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from anyone? Any questions? Do you have a sense of what you need to do to fulfill your potential in life? One of the variables actually is your potential more about becoming more of who you can be, or is it more about being, just accepting yourself just the way you are and being in the flow of life? Those are sort of the two. If we're always becoming, if we're always learning and growing, it can be tiring. We need to balance that with being, just being, everything being perfect just the way that it is. Okay, so is there a question? And if not, I'm going to do something else.
I wanted to say something actually.
Go on, Caroline.
Which was, for me, what came up was the need for myself to really, really lean into suffering. My own suffering, but also I think something that feels more archetypal, and that it just came up very strongly as the way to become the next thing that I need to be, you know. So I just thought I'd share that, just because. Well, I just thought I would.
Some people are really, really great at the spiritual and not so great at the human, and some people are really great at the human and not so great at the spiritual. It's such a great to have the whole range. So thank you, Caroline. It's really, really beautiful. Marina, I think you raised your hand. You have to unmute.
Yeah, it's just picking up on the last thing you said, Julian, that for me, in terms of my life calling, I'm living it, definitely.
What is your life calling?
It's about making a difference to people's lives, and particularly in business, and creating the right culture and things like that. So that's happening. This has been, I think I've said this to you, this coming to this group's been really helpful during lockdown, because I'm still in the shielding group, so it's still quite difficult, but I'm doing everything online, so all of that's fine. The bit that I want to just mention, there's another area of my life where I've really tried to go for it and it hasn't happened, and I know what to do, but something you were saying, and COVID's not helping that bit, but something you said, there's something about really going for it but still sort of letting go of it, if that makes sense.
What area of your life is this? Is this dating?
Well, I don't really want to go. I could, there we go. The people that are in my group, they know. But I kind of don't really want to start exploring all that with a bigger, wider group. But just, that thing where all I'm going to say is where you've really gone for it and you've got close but not got it. And then for me, as a sort of driver, as a person, I make it happen. It all happens. Yeah, do it. There's something about then not being too attached and being more in the now and going with the flow, and that letting go thing. So if it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
So and if it doesn't, life's still okay, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, exactly. No, that's really, really good. There's something about, with athletes, what they do is they put their conscious attention into the practice, the training and the practice. But when they go to perform, they just try to relax and be in the flow.
Yeah.
So you put your effort into the practice sessions to get yourself to the place where you can do what it is you need to do. But to actually get to the high performance, you then have to just relax. And so that's it's one of those interesting things, the balance between, so flow, when one being in the flow, one is focused but really relaxed. So that's the thing, not too much. I'd like everybody to unmute and just say a word. We're not in such a hurry, so say a word about how you're feeling right now. I want to hear from everybody. What's the feeling you have right now?
Lovely.
Mellow.
Motivated.
Anxious.
Anxious.
Tired. Tired myself. Tired but positive.
Joyful.
Resourceful. Grateful and appreciative.
Delicate.
Joyful.
Reflective.
Contented.
Gentle, did you say, Esther?
Grateful.
Grateful.
Aware.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And has everybody spoken?
Yeah.
I think so. End with a poem.
Oh.
Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third step. Start with the first thing close in, the step you don't want to take. Start with the ground you know, the pale ground beneath your feet, your own way of starting the conversation. Start with your own question. Give up on other people's questions. Don't let them smother something simple. To find another's voice, follow your own voice. Wait until that voice becomes a private listening to another. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing, close in, the step you don't want to take. Great. So let's take, for those of you who want to stay for the session on life talent, stay, and to the rest of you on tools for personal transformation level 1, stay. And for those of you who don't want to, I'll see you another week. Great to have had you here today.
Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Carol.